I have been an Ableton Live user for basically my whole music making life, but now I'm seeing there's like native instruments plugins on the MPC and actual arrangement timeline mode. Is it time to switch to MPC? Is MPC taking the throne as the king of standalone? There's a lot to talk about. Here's the beat, then let's talk. Now look, before we get too deep, like I said, I'm not an MPC expert and there are a lot of MPC OGs out there. So if I make any mistakes or say something wrong during this, jump in the comments, correct me, or at least just let me know what I can do better. All right, let's talk about it. All right, the first big thing is the huge thing that everybody's already been talking about is this integration of native instruments, plugins, or MPC editions of the Play series as they word it specifically. I was really surprised to not only have some of these awesome sounds in this box, but also I think they designed it really well. I think this user interface takes full advantage of this touchscreen. I think the XY feature is cool, and I also think the ability to edit this XY pad with capture, you tweak your cue links, you hit a capture button, and suddenly you've morphed that quadrant, and you can fully customize this. So these sounds are all beautiful on their own. And those are just the Play series. We also have a bunch of expansions. This is one of like the techno kits that I ended up using for like textures in this track. But there's a bunch of other genre-based drum kits, but they're not just drum kits, they've got melodic stuff in them too. And I'll just say, like, something I've always thought about these native instruments expansions is, yes, they're great drum kits, great collections of sounds, but I always thought they were way too close to like an already created piece of music. Like, yes, they have cool samples in them, but essentially it feels like they're just handing you a completed beat that if you push all the right buttons at the right time, you've got an already completed piece of music rather than a collection of things you can use to make your own music. Now, I know that's probably not 100% true, and it's obviously on the user to take the samples and make them your own, but I do feel like the kits that come with the expansions are kind of like already completed songs, so they never appealed to me to have all this melodic stuff in there. I do, however, love all the drum samples, and I almost wish they had versions that were just drum samples so that there was more to offer across these 16 pads and I didn't have to just have these guitar samples that I'm probably not going to use. I mean, as you scroll through the expansions, you're listening to fully made beats. That being said, the drum sounds that are in these kits are really great, and they're organized by genre, you know, by the different expansion type. That's something that Ableton Live has, in my opinion, always slept on. They basically ignore most of the genres that people like to produce with. Now, I don't think that's 100% true anymore. You know, they've commissioned people like Eldre, like Decap to create kits for Ableton Live, but I always feel like as I'm browsing through the Ableton Live instrument library, it's very hard to find quality usable sounds. They're totally in there. I also think the drift synth has been a great addition for sounds that I actually want to use in some kind of contemporary production, but a lot of the sounds mostly seem like a sound designer's showcase rather than actual usable sounds or sounds you want to use in music that you're making. So the addition of these great native instrument sounds into the MPC One is huge. On another note, this is not new to MPC 3, but it's something I never really took advantage of, but Splice Integration is super convenient. I just like turned it on and it downloaded all of my samples, and that's clutch for me because I do like to use like shaker samples, a lot of percussion samples, and they add a lot to the top layer of my beats. I also like to mix and mangle vocal samples, so that will come in handy in the future. But that was just like this seamless integration where suddenly I had all of my Splice library on this machine. That's a big part of my workflow when I use Ableton Live on the computer. Dragging and dropping samples in from Splice into Ableton Live is like really easy on a desktop computer. Here you got to do a little more digging through the files, but you can search and find what you need pretty quickly. But before we get too deep into that, I will say the arranger lets me finish beats on the MPC, and when I finally do finish music, I distribute it with DistroKid, the sponsor of today's video. You probably already know about distribution, but let me tell you about one cool feature that they have, amongst many. This feature is under Enhance Your Music and Spotify Canvas Generator. This is just included in my DistroKid account. Let's say I wanted to release this beat and I wanted to create a Spotify canvas for it. Well, if I type in City Night, let's see what that comes back with. All of these look great for a Spotify canvas. I like this one of the traffic flowing backwards. I hit next. It's processing, and I can immediately download it. And that will become the canvas for this track on Spotify. And that is one of the reasons I love DistroKid. They have a lot of these bonus features, like you can create promotional materials for your track, just graphics you can use and share on social media. They've got the hyperfollow feature, so you can create a landing page for your music. So other than being able to get your music onto Spotify, TikTok, Apple Music, Instagram Reels, all those places, you get a lot of extra stuff with your membership. And if you want to get yourself a discount, 7% off using my link in the description. DistroKid has been my distributor since well before they ever sponsored the channel. I've never had any issues with them. It's just like no nonsense. Upload your music, pay once a year, and release as much music as you want. Get all the bonus features that make your life easier, hopefully, as a musician and a producer. Link in the description, 7% off. Let's get back to talking about this arranger. Okay, finally, and this is probably the biggest part for me about the update, is this arranger view. I mean, this looks like something that had never been on the MPC before, but the fact that I can build up my song on a timeline is like, that was a major hindrance for me with using the MPC previously, because I always felt that I was stuck in these sequences, and the existing song mode of chaining together sequences never quite clicked for me. So I never really felt like I could get my beats out of the box, or that I could truly finish on an MPC. And then it was like, well, if I can't finish here, what's the point of even starting here? That was a little bit of my mentality before. So as I was building up this track, this beat that I was working on, I worked in this normal main screen. Now, this arrangement tab here where I can easily edit the MIDI of each part is super cool. But instead of having to build up different sequences for every part of my song, I basically just built up my main sequence, like the core of my beat with all the layers, and then I jumped into the arrangement and started doing sort of like a subtractive arranging process where I basically took everything away from the beginning and just left my chords. But what this also allowed me to do was to add these additional keys on top, but work in a timeline form, so I can record right into this timeline. So instead of working in a completely loop-based mindset, I can improv across as many bars as I want. And I feel like that can add a quality to your beats that makes them not feel so repetitious. Basically just took one lead instrument, improvised across some bars, and suddenly the pre-existing loop is a little fresh because there's a little solo playing over it. Carry that concept forward, I was then able to go and create a B section with more sparse drums. And not only that, I was able to take the main keys and just pitch them up an octave. Now I will say, like, this should be like a little easier. I feel this is not completely fluid for me yet, and I'm not sure how much of it is just like the MPC interface and how much is it like my ignorance. So here's the section right here where I want to go up an octave, right? So I should be able to zoom on this. If I pinch zoom, that all makes sense. So I know I want these 8 bars right here. I want to basically, let's say I want to transpose these notes. I know that I have to select all these notes like this. But if I go too far or too high, like I end up scrolling. I wish that was like locked right there, but I guess I just have to be more careful with how I select notes. You see how I'm getting like, how do I get back down there? Now if I want to do this, I have to do this and not go too far like that. You know what I mean? So then going to transpose and being able to shift these notes like that. That seems intuitive, but again, the scrolling on the screen, I'm still struggling a little bit with here. In my mind, if I want to select a bunch of notes, I wish this would just freeze and not scroll. Let me know if I'm doing something wrong or if there's a smarter way to do that. I don't know. But a few things on the touchscreen are a little finicky. Like even say if I want to erase notes, like these notes are tiny. So I guess I could zoom in a lot more, make them not so tiny. But then like, what if I want to do like a whole row of notes? Like there's not that much available on the screen. I don't know. I'm still working around this kind of MIDI clip view, or like working with MIDI notes on this screen with touch controls and not a keyboard and mouse. Let me know what I'm doing wrong if you have any tips. But at the end of the day, as you can see from this arrangement view, I was able to structure out a whole song, like a simple song, but I could see the possibilities if I start inserting bars and create a new section. I could also develop another chord progression. That to me feels doable now on the MPC. Not saying it wasn't doable before, of course it was, but for me, this workflow across an arrangement that is similar to a DAW is clicking a lot more for me than it had previously. Now, I think a big debate that's coming up is like, well, why would you want a DAW experience in this box if you're already fluent in another DAW? I think at the end of the day, it's not always about comparing efficiencies of different things. First and foremost, if I'm going to use a standalone piece of gear, like a standalone groove box, or like this is basically a DAW in the box now, I am going to use it for its limitations specifically, because when I open up Ableton Live on my computer, I feel like I have limitless possibilities. All my plugin sounds are available from every library. All my samples are available. I can do crazy amounts of automation, things that might be possible on the MPC One here, but because of the limitations and the simplicity of this workflow, I don't feel that overwhelming feeling, I guess, and I don't feel that I need to do so much to truly complete this beat. Like I said, I feel like this beat is relatively complete, though it is relatively simple, and that's interesting. If I had worked on this music in live, I would probably be all up in my head thinking about, oh, I need to make this more complicated to really make it finished, and I think there is value in that, although acknowledging that I am not an OG MPC producer, so full respect to all the opinions out there for the folks that came way before me. Am I going to be quitting Ableton Live anytime soon? No, but am I more intrigued by the MPC, and do I feel like I could actually start using it a lot more? Yes, and we'll see where this goes. So if you want to see me use the MPC more, let me know in the comments down below. If you want me to talk about comparing this to Ableton Push or any other standalone devices, I could try that, but I don't want to really stir up the standalone wars or anything like that. But for now, that's going to be it. Use the DistroKid link in the description if you do want to get your music on all the platforms and take advantage of some of the bonus features that they have for their users. That's going to be it for now. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.